We're starting our color unit with color theory, some color vocabulary, learning how to mix paint colors, and continuing on to our color wheel. Here you see a completed example, and we're going to start with our blank copy. Make sure that you have labeled what was missing. I also have some scrap paper here so I can do some color testing if I need it. I have my palette with lid. This is called a 10 well palette because there are 10 spots. I have 2 paper towels and a variety of brushes, which I will explain, and my water cup, half full of water. I'm a right-handed person, so all this is going to be on my right side. So we will set up your space each day as that. And if you're left-handed, switch it to the other side. You may also choose to get an apron as a precautionary measure. We're going to start off with some colors. Yellow is always at the top of the wheel, and you'll notice that I just put a small amount in my palette, and we're going to keep our 3 primaries pure, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So I always gently dip my paintbrush in the water and dry it off so it's damp, and I make sure that it's clean from the previous user. So I've got a damp brush. It's not soaking wet. It's just a little bit damp. And I'm going to begin to paint. Now I chose a flat brush to start painting because these are very kind of geometric shapes. I like to use round brushes when I'm mixing my paint colors, and then I like to use flat for this. And then the size of the brush matters too. That's a good size for this compared to this smaller one. I might use that over here. So when dipping my brush in the paint, I just use a little bit. I don't need a lot on my brush. This part is meant for you to hold. And I'm gonna first outline. I'm pulling the brush towards me. And then what I'll do is continue, I'm gonna rotate the paper as needed so that you are painting towards yourself and not awkwardly having to turn your hand, but you are in fact pulling the paint towards you. And I always rotate my paper, smooth it out. I don't want puddles of paint. I want it as smooth and consistent as I can be. And try to stay in the lines. We're not robots or computers. We're not perfect. So just do your best. I'm going to change colors, so I always need to rinse my brush off well in between colors. Next, red and blue are our next primaries. You can see I'm going to add, oh, if it was open, it'd be cool. I'm going to add blue here, a small amount. That's going to stay blue. And then this red. These are colors that are made in the factory. You can't make these yourself when you're mixing. These are the original colors, the primaries. All the other colors we're going to make. So I am going to, oopsie. I always pause and make sure I'm painting in the right spot. So my brush is damp. I'm going to dip it in. I'm painting my red, pulling the brush towards me, flattening it out, and then I'm going to rotate my paper. Whichever way is most convenient for you, whichever feels the best, making sure you don't put your finger in the wet paint like I just did. All right, so I've got my red and my yellow. I'm gonna do the blue, and then I think I'll do the orange to show you a little paint mixing. After a couple of colors, or maybe about 15 minutes, your water's gonna get dirty, and clean water equals clean colors. So as needed, get yourself some clean water. Blue It's a nice, bold, bright cobalt blue. So these are the colors that you paint. This is what you originate from, and you don't make these colors. These come right from the jar or the bottle. And then we'll talk orange, green, and violet, your secondaries. That's where you start to mix and make colors. We only actually buy red, yellow, blue, black, and white each year. We don't even buy other colors. And every color that you see on the color wheel and the saturation scale have been made. Except for the yellow, red, blue, black, and white. Okay, so here comes the color mixing. Let's look at this next. I'll cover this. So we want to keep these three pure. These are going to stay that color. I'm going to make orange, which is a combination of yellow and red. So I'm going to scoop some yellow and put it over here. And notice I switched to a larger brush, a round brush. All right. Always leave your brushes on the paper towel or on the table. Don't leave them in the cup because it will then ruin the bristles. Okay, so now I want to add a little bit of red to make my orange. So I'm going to put a tiny amount. I'm only going to put just a little tiny bit, because you always start with a light paint and add the darker paint. And yellow is a weaker color, red is a stronger color. So as I mix, I'm looking for the orange, just a plain, I call it orange juice orange. And that, I'm pretty happy with that. Mix it up, push it down towards the bottom of the well so you get a little bit. All right, I'm happy with that color. Now, when I paint this, I'm going to use this brush. It's still a little bit damp. I've got my orange. I'm going to pause and look and see what spot I'm painting, because it's easy to get distracted and oops, paint the wrong one. Here's where your scrap paper could first come in handy if you're not quite sure and you want to look at it first. See how it dries, see what you think before you commit to putting it onto your paper. You can. Oops, uh-oh. That's all right. All right, I should have turned because it feels awkward. So now I gotta turn my paper. So I have my orange. One thing I didn't show you yet is we're going to place them also in the hues column. So while I still have my orange mixed, find the section with the O, that is your orange. I didn't take the time to do the other primaries there simply because it will save time. So here is, let me cover that. If your brush has too much water in it, you'll get a watery, pale, washed out kind of color. And you don't want that. You want nice, bold, opaque, solid colors. So that's the beginning of our color mixing. I'm going to demonstrate briefly how to do a green. So again, I want to keep this yellow pure. How about I put the green right next to it? So I'm scooping some yellow, putting it here. And I'm going to add my blue to it. A very small amount, little tiny bit, because I can always add more. A little tiny bit of blue. Let's see how I feel about that. All right, so I've got my green. If you put too much blue, you're going to get blue-green, right? We're going for this green. You can reference the color wheel in the classroom. Okay. I might need to make a little more paint if I'm going to cover those two spots. But notice how I push it down to the middle of the well. I'm using my big round brush, and I've got my green to place here and here. All right. And we'll continue with violets, intermediates, tertiaries, the neutral, and the rest of the scale. When you clean up, I'm going to show you what a quick cleanup involves. Once I'm done for the day and I'm going to clean up, I've got my dirty water, I'm dumping it out, rinsing out the cup. It's going to go in the drainer. I've got my brushes here. I'm going to get all the paint out of it. And you can do two at once. So removing all the paint. This is brush soap. It's like a big bar of soap meant for cleaning brushes. Swirl it around a little bit. See the paint coming off? In my hand. Just like shampooing your pet. Squeeze the water out. Dry them off. All set. Good job.